All right, a very good afternoon to everyone, and those of you tuning in within the same region, and very good day to you and the other regions. First of all, thank you to Petromindo, Coal Asia, and all the sponsors of holding this webinar. I think, it's timely discussions that we need to continue to have with the very dynamic market that we're facing, especially this year, and how everyone sees it from within their own region and within their own country in terms of the growth and the projected demand for coal. I'll be speaking specifically, trying to narrow it down to an Indonesian perspective. I'm basically handling the association for the IPP, the power producers of Indonesia. We consist of members from mostly traditionally coal producers, and there is also a few of an oil and gas producer that decided to build downstream and continue to invest in the power development, building power plants within Indonesia, and in order to also have a tie-in between the upstream and the downstream of the coal product. And because of our now our foothold being in the power plant, we are also looking at the transformation that is happening with PLN and how it affects us, and also the energy transition and currently the effect of the pandemic. And I think hopefully we can come up with some view of where we're going towards the end of the year. Okay, I'll start globally. I think Stephen gave a very good slide already as an introduction of where we are globally. I think I'll just basically try not to overly repeat, but basically this is the top 10 countries in terms of the installed capacity. Obviously, up till as of recent, China still holds the dominant in terms of the output of power, followed by United States and India. But in terms of the planned coal additional capacity that is in the pipeline, I think some of the countries outside of the region will probably not focus too much on further coal expansion. United States, it really depends on what happens in November, whether they're leaning more towards something more environmentally friendly, or they still focus on coal being the backbone of their energy mix. But based on some of the data we try to gain, I think US is not planning on building additional capacity coming from coal-fired power plant, as well as some countries in Germany, in Europe. I mean, you see here that the top 10 countries in the left chart, you still see Germany and Poland within the top 10 in terms of coal generation for power, specifically thermal coal. But I think going forward, most of the growth will be coming from a lot of them are Asian countries. We do need to see whether this forecast will be adjusted. There is talks about a global restart. We hear that more and more often, and whether that plays into the planned coal capacity expansion that's already in the pipeline. But we look at these specifically because these are the traditional markets for Indonesian exporters for coal. China and India still remaining the largest, and it seems like even though they're leaning also towards other sources of energy and also maximizing the domestic use of coal mining within their own country instead of relying on seaborne imported thermal coal market, they are still planning a sizable amount of additional output within the power coming from coal-fired. As mentioned earlier, there are growth opportunities that we see in Vietnam and Philippines. I think those two countries are we see a lot of inquiries coming from those two countries as well the last 6-7 months, which kind of offsets a bit of how quiet it has been from China, and also India and Bangladesh, of being affected by the port restrictions and also the recent lockdowns that's still happening. So I think that gives us a bit of a view of which countries will continue to be, export destinations for Indonesian coal exporters. Right. This chart basically just shows the electricity consumption and where it has grown the last 5 years up till 2019. As you can see, Indonesia is still one of the lowest, even compared to its neighboring developing countries such as Philippines, Vietnam, and Thailand. So I think, when you look at that, it makes more sense for Indonesia to continue to play catch up in terms of developing its power to meet the growing consumption moving forward. And you can contrast it also with some of the more developed nations such as Japan and Singapore, where the consumption per capita is already significantly a lot higher than where it is in Indonesia. This is also a chart that shows you the amount of electricity that has been produced. Starting in 2011, we started at an installed capacity of around 40 gigawatts. Since the crash program, the fast track program, and also continued by the 35,000 megawatt vision by our current president. It has grown quite significantly to about 58 giga as of last year. So that compounded annual growth is around to 5 to 6%, whether you look at it from the capacity growth or also the amount of electricity that is generated. And the mandate basically top down from the president to PLN and also to the IPP participation is to continue to maintain electrification ratio up to 100%. I think we're pretty close to that. Yes, I mentioned earlier about the energy mix. I think coal is will remain the backbone of the source of power for electricity in Indonesia. As of recent, we see it up to 47 to 50% the last 2 years of the capacity addition coming from coal-fired power plant being built. And it's interesting to see that in terms of the electricity produced is actually much higher. And that just shows the merit order of the system of choice, that coal remains, it being affordable to power Indonesia and its economic development. So it shows a much higher figure compared to the amount of installed capacity. I base this on the latest RUPTL. We are waiting for the, everyone is very interested on see whether there is a new forecast that that's been circulating, that the new RUPTL is probably going to be revised and announced publicly soon. But this is based on the 2019 till the 2028, in which an additional of 56 gigawatts will continue to be built within the next 9 years, and 27 gigawatts, or about 47%, will still be coming from coal-fired power plant. You do see a big jump in some of the other sources of energy, especially renewables, but that remains to be seen whether that can be accelerated a lot faster or whether it's stalled. But I think the plan to ratify to the Paris Agreement and to have some renewable energy portion as a larger part of your power output, I think is also a national commitment, and it'll be interesting to see how fast that will be transformed. Okay, specifically, I think for Indonesia, with the economic growth that we've seen the last 5 years, and also the additional expansion that we've seen, I guess in the long run, I must say, just in the long run, the domestic coal consumption will increase. But as we have seen lately, the last 8 months of this year with the current pandemic and also the economic downturn, will the Indonesian government continue to enforce this DMO policy with the penalties applied to ensure the Indonesia's energy security? I know Pak Hendra and the Coal Mining Association have given some constructive inputs to the government in terms of whether it needs to be enforced with the current oversupply. But I think we're waiting on further clarification whether this year is an anomaly, as we know, and whether this DMO will apply. But basically, the DMO is the mandate for Indonesian coal producers to allocate 25% of its annual production to supply domestically at a cap of index ceiling price using HBA of $70 per metric ton, or have some penalties in terms of production cut, or some other measures with the latest regulation. But I looked at the first quarter of this year. There was only 31 million that was realized domestically, PLN using 25 million, and the other industrial users using about 6 million. So if I annualize that, I think it comes up to about 124 million. So that's short of what the DMO has been set and targeted at 155 million this year. So I think it'll be more than covered by the national production. So I don't think there needs to be any more strict enforcement of the domestic market, because at the moment I think the focus is more on whether the national coal producers adjust to the current market, or they continue or maintain its level of production the way it is until the end of the year.
Okay, Arthur, your time, Arthur.
Okay, one more slide, Pak Hendra. This is the current condition. I basically also based on what Pak Zul, the CEO of PLN, basically said in terms of where we have achieved the last 5 years in terms of the 35,000 megawatt. You can see the numbers there and the different stages. And the plan is actually to finalize in 2025. The RUPTL stated that it was supposed to be finished in 2023. So I do see that everyone is expecting a delay there. Some of the challenges we face, of course, is the material supply during pandemic has been, there's been logistical issues, geographical challenges being Indonesia and land acquisition. And the demand has been reduced as well. Really depends on what Pak Hendra said earlier, how long will this continue? But I think the longer the COVID pandemic continue, that we'll see a further decrease in demand of electricity. So the 6.5% growth rate that was assumed, I think, will need to be adjusted. The Java-Bali system is oversupplied, and I think PLN has stated a moratorium on additional plant expansion within the Java-Bali system. And there is also talks about retiring the old coal-fired power plant and replacing them with either more efficient, ultra supercritical, or replacing them with something of a renewable energy altogether. So I think those are thoughts that I have from my slide. Thank you very much for listening to my slides. Thank you.